Hey everyone, adakai TCG here, and today I'm going to be coming at you with a different type of video. It's going to be more of a discussion video, talking through the current meta, my thoughts going into nationals, and the deck that I'm leaning towards bringing. And so just wanted to give a few thoughts around the current meta and kind of my playtesting experience. And so I think everyone knows already that's played OP05. There's a boogeyman of a deck, the Sakazuki deck. It is a very strong and very consistent deck. It sees a lot of the pieces that it needs because of the inherent leader ability to cycle through the deck, and then being able to play with and bring back cards from its trash. And so, with that being said, my initial journey was to tech against that deck with Red Purple Kid, as well as some of the other older leaders that I like, such as Black Luffy. What I ended up finding was the better I teched the deck against Sakazuki, the harder the matchup against Enel felt. And so it did feel like, it feels like the meta is currently at this place where a viable deck has to have a good answer into both Sakazuki and Enel. And so, with that being said, all the testing and teching that I've been doing with Red Purple Kid, the Enel matchup just felt harder and harder and harder each time I made changes in the deck. And so, what I ended up doing is giving some of the meta decks a try as well. I think one of the best ways to learn a deck's weakness is by playing the deck. And so I've played Sakazuki, I've played Enel, I've played Purple Luffy, and trying to figure out what kind of best fits me for going into nationals. And where I landed was, there was a locals where I was talking to one of my buddies, Kevin, and he asked, why don't I just try Katakuri? And funny story about Kevin, before I started going on my Black Luffy grinds, he's actually the one that lent me his cards, or his deck for Smoker, which got me onto playing Black as a color. And so it was during locals where he told me I needed to take a break from playing red, and he said, hey, play my Smoker deck. And I adamantly refused. I said, hey, no, I wanna top this locals. I want a winner card. And he's like, no, just have fun and play the Smoker deck. So I did, and lo and behold, I topped that locals playing that deck for the first time, and fell in love with Black overall, as a color. And so when Kevin asked me to do something, I kind of take it seriously now. And so I gave Katakuri a try, and it does feel very consistent into a lot of the meta. I think it has a good matchup against Sakazuki. Sakazuki can very well still answer Katakuri, but it does feel like Sakazuki needs to play that pretty perfectly to answer it well consistently. And then Katakuri does seem like it has a good matchup against Enel as well, because of the 10-drop Big Mom. And so, after some testing and after a lot of thinking, I am leaning towards playing Katakuri for nationals. And so, what I will not do today is provide a deck list, because the list that I'm currently running, it is cooked by my boy Kevin. I only made one slight and minor change to it. He's done a lot of work with yellow and put a lot of thought and care into constructing that deck. And so in order to respect his privacy as well, and his competitive edge going into nationals, I will not be posting it. But what I will do is talk about some of the key cards, and my thoughts about playing those key cards into certain matchups. And so just wanted to give you that update. And I get a lot of comments below asking where I get the custom leaders that I'm playing with. The custom leaders that I get playing with, I get them from myself. I actually make custom cards. I don't know if most of the YouTube crowd knows it yet, but I originally started as a custom card maker in the game, and so I do custom leaders. The kid that you see in my kid deck profile, that is my very own custom art card, and I do have a website, www.adakai-tcg.com, if you want to see some of the latest releases I've done. I do have some with me right now. I've released a Dawn set, which is kind of hard to see, but it is all of the worst generations, Jolly Rogers, and it's a little hard to see because of the lighting, but these are all on foil, and so you'll see this is a glass foil that I used, so yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but they do look beautiful in person. That is up for sale currently on my website, so be sure to check that out. But yeah, without any further ado, let's go into the key cards in the Katakuri deck. Alright guys, so what I did here was take out some of the key cards within the Katakuri deck that may not be in every single deck. I mean, some of them probably are, but I guess the key newer cards, I'm not going to go over things like Pudding or Paraspero or the big mobs themselves, because I think those are pretty self-explanatory why they're needed within the deck. But we will be focusing on more of the, for lack of a better term, optional techs. And so let's go right on ahead. First, let's go over the leader. For those that don't know, I'm sure you guys already do, but what the leader does is when you Dawn ×1, when you're attacking, you can look at one life card from the top of either yours or your opponent's life area, and then put it either at the top or bottom of that life area. Then the leader gets an additional 1,000 power for the battle. Again, super strong effects. I think anytime you can get card knowledge in this game, it's an incredibly strong advantage over your opponent. And so, yeah, I found myself even defending certain attacks really early if I haven't had a chance to look at my life, just because I want to be the one that dictates when what is being triggered. And so I've won games where my first life was a Beige. I countered out of an attack in the first swing that they did, which I was glad I did, because then I was able to look at it and put it to the bottom of my life, and that's what won me the game. And so, again, yellow is already really strong with having cracked triggers, but when you're able to dictate the cadence in which your opponent gets to see those triggers, that's when this deck really rises to another level. And yeah, I think that's where there's also some skill expression too, where you have to decide when it's important to look at your life versus your opponent's life. And yeah, it's a situation by situation basis, but yeah, this is where there are some levels of skill expression within Katakuri. For those that think Katakuri is only linear, which I can see why you're arguing that too, but yeah, so let's move on to Cracker. So Cracker versus Smoothie, both kind of do a similar thing where you can trigger this off of life by discarding a card and playing it. What I found that I like about Cracker a little bit better is that Cracker tends to make your opponent play a different way, and this is something that I might enjoy too much, but it is something that asks your opponent to deal with. And so, yeah, just the fact that if there's a situation where you're at a lower life than your opponent, this can get 1,000 power in a double attack with just the investment of one Dawn. That's really scary. A lot of the leaders right now are 4-life leaders too, and so no one wants to take a double attack. Yeah, and so this is it's a really strong card. I found myself liking this a little bit better than Smoothie for that fact. I never wanted to really use the Smoothie ability when I played her in my deck. Yeah, it just felt a little awkward. I wanted to stay at the life I wanted to stay at. I didn't want to draw the card. I wanted it to be a trigger in my life, and so this just overall became my favorite of the two. But again, if you guys like Smoothie, I think that's also another option. Yamato. I think it's important to run some number of copies of Yamato in the deck. It's just another option where it's doing something that your other cards aren't doing, which is a KO on play. It does come up more often than you would think. It gives you a little bit more play lines you can do, where you have the option to gain a life and KO a body on the board. I've used it even without the life benefit when I wanted to get rid of something on the board, like a 4-drop Kuzan. Yeah, it just felt worth it to play a Yamato and just get rid of a card that's going to be annoying for the rest of the matchup. Yeah, I think it's a good flex spot pick, and should be considered being run in the deck. Gadatsu, I really like this card. I wish that I saw it more when I needed it. I feel like anytime there's a really great situation, I can't seem to draw it from my hand. But still, regardless, it's still really good. 5 cost, 6k power with a 1000 counter. On play, KO one of your opponent's characters with equal or less life. With a cost equal or less than their life. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, this is just a really strong card. Anytime you can play something and remove something, it feels like black to me. And even if you're just popping a weenie, in decks like Sakazuki, those weenies can swing with Houndblaze. I mean, same with Enel, with the 200 million volts Amaru. And so, honestly, it's worth getting rid of those weenies. And then if you left them at a higher life, you're hitting something higher. And so it's a pretty good flex pick. I would say definitely include it if you can find the room for it. Satori. This is an amazing 2k counter. I love having flexible cards. This is, again, it has the 5,000 power stat that we love. That's going to be swinging into almost every leader. It has a trigger that allows you to play this from your hands. Once you play this after you trash a card from your hands, sorry. And then it's also a 2k counter, and so you have the option to play it or not play it, right? So if you need an extra body on the board, you got it. If you need it to be a 2k, just keep it in hand. And so this deck can go surprisingly super wide, super quickly, before your opponent can realize it, right? Because you're playing probably the 4 of Perispero, if you're playing 4 Satori, and then some number of Cracker or Smoothie. Though that's a lot of triggers that's going to be played, and then the Sanji, of course, yeah. And so those are a lot of chances to get a 5k body on the board for just the cost of trashing one from your hand. And so it's really strong and can go surprisingly wide against boards that aren't ready for it. And yeah, it's just another way to punish your opponents. But again, if you need it for defense, it's perfectly fine to keep it in hand as a 2k. Brûlé, this is something that I've played with and without. What I don't like about it is its stat line. It's a 3 cost 1k blocker, but again, 3 can be a little bit annoying for Sakazuki, because he has to commit some level of removal or cost minusing to remove it, unless he's going to be using something straight like Borsellino, which I doubt he would be doing that. But yeah, so it is a flex spot. I am running some number of Brûlés in the deck too. It does come in handy though sometimes. I just think there's too many ways to deal with blockers, but again, you're kind of asking your opponent, do they have the answers for it too? So if they do, they do. If they don't, it's great. It'll save you. The 7-drop Linlin. I'm liking this card more and more that I play it. For 7 cost, has an 8,000 power, and you're forcing your opponent to choose, which almost either option always feels bad for the opponent, and so I like that it establishes a big body and can either play into you being more aggressive or just getting more life, which buys you more time to drop your 10 cost big bombs. And so I do think that this is a great card. I think it sees even more relevance now that there's a lot more 4 life leaders that are being rampant. Even Purple Luffy is taking his own life, and so yeah, their life is valuable to them, and so it does help extend the games out to draw out the big bombs, and so nice card. Thunderbolt, again, I think it's another staple. This in conjunction with 200 million volts Amaru is a super powerful combo, especially into things like Sakazuki that'll be dropping a ton of 4 cost, 5 cost blockers. So again, this hits the Sabo after the turn that they're unkillable. This hits the Borsalinos if you get it off a life. I've won games just by thunderbolting down to 1 life, so that it makes my 200 million volts Amaru live to rest their second blocker and then go for game. So with the addition of this card, man, Yellow just got some really awesome toolkits, little goodies that they have, and so 200 million volts Amaru is one of my favorite cards in the deck. Again, for 2 non, you're giving a leader, a character, 3,000 power, which already is value. But if you have 1 or less life cards, you can rest up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 4 or less. Again, this makes your opponent play a little differently. Sometimes they'll leave you at 2 life when they have every right to bring you down to 1 or 0 because they're afraid of this card. They're afraid of their blocker being tapped and then you just have a game the next turn. And so it's a card that makes your opponent think, and it's a card that can also catch people off guard too if they just don't remember it. And the trigger's great too. Sometimes I'll just put it right to the bottom, knowing that I'll have another failsafe of an extra card, or extra life rather. Just same effect as what's that other card that Yellow used to run? It's escaping me now. Yeah, but this is the trash 2 cards from hand. You get another life, and so great card. And lastly, Soul Pocus. I am running Soul Pocus in this deck. Yeah, it's a really fun card to play into your opponent. And so if you see it early in life, it feels so great. Makes your opponent either lose more life than they are intending to, or you're just staying healthy for longer. And honestly, if I have it in hands, I found myself dropping this on curve way more often than I thought, because I would have bodies developing out of my triggers as well, just like the Cracker, the Paraspero, or the Satori. And so sometimes it's just nice just to force your opponent to making those decisions, and it feels really oppressive. And again, later in the game, you can just use it as a card to trash for other effects, such as the Satori effect or Paraspero effect, or Cracker effect. And so it does have flexibility if it is dead in hand. And so yeah, overall I think this deck again has the answers into Sakazuki and has a good matchup into Enel. It does struggle a little bit into Purple Luffy, but even then you can definitely squeeze out a win there too. So knowing that those 3, I guess, titan of a matchups are kind of handled pretty well by this deck, I think it's going to be my pick for Nationals. But yeah, I'm excited to see and hear what you guys have been playing, what you guys have been playing against, your thoughts on the meta as well. If you guys are going to be at Nationals, reach out. I would love to connect too. And so yeah, that's about it for this video. Hey Adacrew, just wanted to remind you, if you haven't already done so, be sure to check out my online shop. All you need to do is type in www.adakai-tcg.com to check out all the latest custom cards I've been making. There you can find highly limited serialized customized cards, such as this purple Luffy leader. Each card will be marked with a unique serial number from 1 to 50, and once it sells out, the design will no longer be printed again. Here you can also find the customized Dawn sets I've been working on, such as the Luffy Will Be King set, which features all the Straw Hats proclaiming their captain will be the king of the pirates. So if you don't want to miss out on the latest customs, make sure to check it out now. The links will be in the description below.